As I sat in the dim light of our living room, the weight of the world pressed down on my chest. I had always believed in the sanctity of our marriage, in the vows we exchanged under the soft glow of candlelight. Our love story was one that I thought would last a lifetime, a fairy tale in which we would grow old together, sharing laughter, dreams, and the mundane moments that make life worth living. My wife, Sarah, was the light of my life. She was kind, intelligent, and had a smile that could brighten even the darkest days. But that day, when she casually mentioned her trip to the gym, something felt off. I brushed it aside, trusting her completely. I remembered how she had always prioritized her health and fitness, often spending hours at the gym. It was part of who she was, and I admired her dedication. Yet there was a slight hesitation in her voice, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. As I watched her gather her gym bag, I felt a nagging doubt creep into my mind. "Are you sure you want to go today?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Of course. I need to keep up with my routine," she replied, her tone dismissive as if my concern was unwarranted. I nodded, pushing aside the inkling of unease. After all, I had no reason to doubt her. We had built a life together based on trust and mutual respect. I made a mental note of the time she left, thinking I would enjoy a quiet evening at home, maybe catch up on some reading. As the hours passed, I found myself distracted. The clock ticked slowly, each second amplifying my growing anxiety. I tried to focus on my book, but the words blurred on the page. I glanced at my phone, half expecting a text from Sarah saying she was on her way back, but there was nothing. Eventually, my curiosity got the better of me. I picked up my phone and decided to check the gym's website. I thought perhaps I could see if she was there, maybe even a class schedule or some updates. As I scrolled through the page, my heart sank. The gym was closed that day. A sudden wave of nausea washed over me. I felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath my feet. "Closed for maintenance," the announcement read. The words echoed in my mind, drowning out everything else. I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion. How could she lie to me so easily? I had trusted her. How could she betray that trust? I was left grappling with the sudden realization that my wife had been dishonest. The minutes turned into hours, and I could hardly breathe. I paced the living room, my mind racing with thoughts of where she could possibly be. The images of her smiling face twisted into something unrecognizable. I felt a mixture of dread and anger bubbling inside me, and the question loomed larger than anything else. Where was she? I knew I had to confront her. I needed answers, but I was terrified of what those answers might be. I could already feel the walls of our life together beginning to close in. The laughter we shared, the quiet moments, the dreams for the future, all of it felt precarious, hanging by a thread. As I waited for her to return, I felt a storm brewing within me. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand the truth. But I also felt a deep sense of sadness wash over me. The woman I had loved, the partner I had trusted, was now a stranger in my mind. The hours dragged on, each tick of the clock amplifying my anxiety. I tried to occupy my mind with trivial tasks: washing dishes, folding laundry, anything to distract me from the growing knot in my stomach. But no matter how busy I kept myself, the thought of Sarah's absence haunted me. When the front door finally creaked open, I felt my heart leap and then plummet. She stepped inside, her cheeks flushed and her hair slightly damp. I could smell the faint scent of her favorite floral perfume mixed with something else, something I couldn't quite place. My mind raced. Had she been at the gym, or was there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? "Hey, babe," she called out, her voice light and cheerful as if she hadn't just been unaccounted for. "You won't believe the workout I just had." I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. The casualness of her tone felt like a slap in the face. I forced a smile, trying to play along, but the facade crumbled as the truth loomed over us like a dark cloud. "Really?" I forced the words out, my voice steadier than I felt. "I thought the gym was closed today." Her smile faltered for just a moment, and I caught a flicker of something in her eyes. Was it guilt? "Oh, I must have gotten the days mixed up," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "I went for a run instead." "A run?" I echoed, my mind racing. "You didn't mention that before." "Yeah, I just decided to switch it up a bit," she replied, her tone still light but with an edge of defensiveness. I figured it would be nice to get some fresh air. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to accept her explanation and let the matter drop. But the nagging doubt in my mind festered like an untreated wound. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that there was more to this story. I needed to know the truth, and I needed to confront her about it. "Sarah," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "can we talk?" Her expression shifted, the casual demeanor replaced by a semblance of wariness. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "I checked the gym's hours today and it was closed. I don't understand why you would lie to me about going there." For a moment, silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. I could see the realization wash over her face, and my heart raced as I braced myself for her reaction. "Lie? I didn't lie, she stammered, her composure faltering. "Sarah, please," I interrupted, my voice rising. "Just tell me the truth. You could have gone for a run, but I need to know why you felt the need to cover it up." Her eyes darted away, and I could see her struggling to find the right words. "I didn't think it was a big deal. I just wanted some time to myself." Time to herself. The words struck me like a blow. I felt a rush of anger mixed with a profound sense of betrayal. "But you didn't tell me that. You told me you were going to the gym, and I believed you. I trusted you." "I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, just what?" I demanded, my frustration boiling over. "Just wanted to keep something from me, or maybe you had other plans." Her eyes widened, and I could see the panic setting in. "No, it's not like that. I just needed a break from everything, from work, from life. I didn't mean to hurt you." I took a step back, my heart racing. "A break? Is that what you call it? What else are you hiding from me, Sarah?" In that moment, I felt a wave of confusion and heartbreak wash over me. The woman I had loved and trusted was standing before me, yet all I could see was a stranger. The truth felt like a chasm opening between us, and I was terrified of what lay on the other side. As she opened her mouth to respond, the air felt thick with unspoken words. I wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that there was a reasonable explanation for her actions. But the nagging doubt had taken root in my mind, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the precipice of something I wasn't ready to face. "Just tell me the truth, Sarah," I urged, my voice barely a whisper. "I need to know if I can trust you." She hesitated, and for a moment time stood still. The weight of our relationship hung in the balance, and I felt the fragility of our love like never before. The silence between us felt deafening, a heavy curtain drawn over the truth that I desperately sought. Sarah's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and I could see the internal battle she was fighting. I wanted to reach out to reassure her that whatever it was, we could overcome it together, but the fear of what I might hear held me back. "I swear it's not what you think," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I just needed some space to clear my head. I didn't want to burden you with my stress." "Burden me?" I repeated, my voice rising again. "You think lying to me is better than just being honest about how you feel? Do you really think I wouldn't support you?" Her shoulders slumped, and I could see the weight of her guilt pressing down on her. "I didn't mean to hurt you, I thought it would be easier this way." "Easier?" I shook my head in disbelief. "You know what's easier, being honest. You've made it harder for both of us by hiding the truth. Do you even realize that?" As I spoke, I felt the anger within me bubbling to the surface, fueled by confusion and betrayal. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she understood the depth of my pain. But instead, I felt my voice crack as I continued. "I can't just stand here and pretend everything is fine when clearly it's not. You lied to me, Sarah." "I didn't mean to lie," she shot back, her voice rising defensively. I thought I could handle it on my own. I didn't want to worry you." "Handle what?" I pressed, my heart racing. "What are you trying to handle? Because right now, all I see is a wife who is hiding something from her husband." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. But the anger was too raw, too fresh. I could go. "If it's nothing, then just tell me. If you're really just needing some space, then I can understand that. But if there's more to it, I need to know." She took a deep breath, and I watched as she composed herself, her expression shifting from defensiveness to something more vulnerable. "Okay," she said slowly, her voice steadying. "I'll tell you everything. Just please don't jump to conclusions." I nodded, my heart pounding as I braced myself for whatever was about to unfold. "I'm listening." "I've been feeling overwhelmed lately," she began, her voice softening. With work, with everything, I thought taking some time for myself would help me sort through my feelings, but I didn't want to burden you with it. I didn't want you to think that I was unhappy in our marriage. And this is why you lied? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, she admitted, her eyes glistening with tears. I thought if I could just take a break, I would feel better. I didn't think it would lead to this. This, I echoed, my heart racing. What do you mean? This, her gaze dropped to the floor and I could see the shame etched across her features. I didn't go for a run, I went to meet someone. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind raced and I felt the air rush from my lungs. Meet someone who, what do you mean? I didn't want to hurt you, she said, her voice cracking. I thought it would just be one time, I didn't think it would matter. Didn't think it would matter, I repeated, feeling the anger rise within me again. You thought meeting someone else wouldn't matter. Sarah, this is everything. I know, she cried, tears streaming down her face. I messed up, I was just so lost and I didn't know how to talk to you about it. I didn't want to ruin what we had. Ruin what we had? I asked, my voice trembling. You've already done that, you've shattered my trust. How could you do this to me? I was confused. She shouted, her voice filled with desperation. I didn't know what I wanted. I just needed someone to listen, to understand. I thought it was just a mistake, something I could forget about, but then it became more complicated. Complicated? I echoed, my heart racing. This isn't complicated, it's betrayal. It's a choice you made and now I'm left to pick up the pieces. I never meant for it to go this far, she said, her voice breaking. I thought I could find clarity, but all I found was more confusion. I'm so sorry, I never wanted to hurt you. The weight of her words crashed over me like a tidal wave, and I felt the ground beneath me shift. I had trusted her with everything, and now I was left standing in the wreckage of our relationship. The pain was indescribable, a deep ache that settled in my chest. Why didn't you just talk to me? I asked, my voice a whisper. We could have worked through this together. I thought I could handle it, she replied, her voice barely audible. I didn't want to drag you into my mess. I thought I could just fix it on my own. As the truth sank in, I felt a mixture of anger and heartbreak. The woman I loved had chosen to walk a path that led to betrayal instead of reaching out for help. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I need time to think, I said finally, my voice trembling. I can't process this right now. Her face fell and I could see the realization of what she had done wash over her. Please, don't walk away from me. I'll do anything to make this right. But I didn't respond. I turned away, feeling the weight of her words echo in my mind. The trust we had built over years felt like a fragile glass shattered beyond repair. As I stepped into the other room, I could still hear her sobs behind me, but I couldn't look back. I needed space to breathe, to think. I needed to figure out what this all meant for us. The silence in the room felt suffocating, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. I paced back and forth, my heart pounding like a war drum. The revelation of Sarah's betrayal had torn through me, leaving a gaping wound that I didn't know how to heal. I tried to focus on the details of what she had said, but my mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal, gasping for air. I could hear her sobs from the other room, and each sound felt like a dagger to my heart. Part of me wanted to rush back to her, to comfort her, to reassure her that we could work through this. But another part of me, a larger part, felt an overwhelming urge to protect myself from further pain. I needed to think clearly, and that wasn't going to happen while I was trapped in the same space as her. I grabbed my jacket and slipped out of the house, the cool night air hitting me like a slap. I didn't have a destination in mind. I just needed to escape. As I walked aimlessly through the neighborhood, the weight of my thoughts pressed heavily on my shoulders. I thought about all the moments we had shared, the laughter, the dreams, the plans for the future. It felt like a cruel joke now, a facade that had crumbled in an instant. How could she betray me so easily? Had I missed the signs? I stopped at a small park nearby, the trees casting long shadows under the dim light of the street lamps. I sat on a bench, staring blankly at the ground. I couldn't wrap my mind around the reality of what had just happened. The thoughts raced through my head. Who was he? Was he someone she knew from work? A friend? I felt a surge of anger at the thought of another man taking my place, of him being the one to listen to her when she felt lost. I clenched my fists, trying to suppress the rage bubbling within me. But alongside the anger, there was a profound sadness that threatened to consume me. I had loved Sarah with every fiber of my being. She was my partner, my confidant, the one person I thought I could trust above all others. And now that trust felt like ashes in my mouth. I pulled out my phone, staring at it as if it held the answers I was seeking. I could call her, demand more answers, scream at her for what she had done. But a part of me knew that wouldn't help. I needed to process this to understand how I truly felt before confronting her again. After sitting there for what felt like hours, I finally stood up and began to walk back home. The cool night air had offered me some clarity, but the pain was still fresh, and I knew I would need to face Sarah again. When I returned to the house, I found her sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands. The sight of her brought back a rush of emotions: love, betrayal, confusion. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that was about to unfold. "Sarah," I said softly, my voice steady, but my heart raced. She looked up, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you. I don't know what I was thinking. I felt lost." "Lost," I repeated, my voice rising again. "You felt lost and decided to seek comfort in another person. How does that make any sense?" "I know it doesn't," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I was just so overwhelmed with everything in my life, work, stress, and I thought I could find clarity outside of our relationship, but I see now how wrong I was." I shook my head, the anger bubbling up again. "You didn't just seek clarity, Sarah. You sought someone else to fill a void that you could have talked to me about. You made a choice, a conscious choice to lie and betray me." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking, "and I hate myself for it. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought it would be a one-time thing, but it spiraled out of control. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I said, my voice cold. "You've shattered my trust. You've made me question everything we built together." "I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But please, I'm begging you to give me a chance to explain. I want to make this right." "Make this right?" I repeated incredulously. "How do you plan to do that? Trust is not something that can simply be rebuilt overnight. You've broken something that was supposed to be unbreakable." "I know, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes," she pleaded, her eyes searching mine for any sign of forgiveness. "I love you, and I've been so stupid. I don't want to lose you." The sincerity of her words pierced through the anger that had been consuming me. I could see the remorse etched on her face, the genuine regret for her actions. But even in that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. "I need time, Sarah," I said finally, my voice steady but filled with pain. "I can't just ignore what you've done. I need to figure out if I can ever trust you again." "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll talk about my feelings, whatever you need." I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. Counseling could be a path forward, but it wouldn't erase the hurt I felt. "We can talk about counseling, but it's going to take more than just words to fix this. I'll prove to you that I'm serious," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I'll show you that I can change." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope, but it was overshadowed by uncertainty. Could I really trust her again, or had she crossed a line that could never be uncrossed? The future felt uncertain and the path ahead was murky. "I need space to think," I insisted, my voice steady. "I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight." "Okay," she said, her voice small, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. But I knew that for my own sanity, I needed to create some distance. As I walked away, I felt a mix of emotions swirling within me: anger, sadness, and a lingering love that made it all the more painful. The road ahead would be difficult, but I knew I had to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The guest room felt foreign as I lay on the bed, staring up at the ceiling. It was quiet, save for the sound of my own breathing, but the silence was deafening. I couldn't escape the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in my mind. Sarah's confession replayed over and over, each time stabbing at my heart like a knife. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, both of which battled for dominance. As I lay there, I thought about the life we had built together. The memories flooded my mind: our first date, the way she laughed at my terrible jokes, the quiet evenings spent curled up on the couch, the dreams we shared of starting a family. Suddenly, those memories felt tainted, like a beautiful painting marred by a single stroke of black paint. I turned over in the bed, trying to find a comfortable position, but sleep eluded me. I felt restless, my mind racing with questions. Who was the man she met? Did she have feelings for him? Was this just an emotional affair, or had it crossed physical boundaries? The uncertainty gnawed at me, and I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through our messages, searching for signs I might have missed. I found the usual banter we shared, the love notes, the plans for the weekend. But now every word felt hollow. I couldn't help but wonder how much of it had been genuine and how much had been a facade. I thought about calling her, demanding more answers, but I knew that wouldn't help. I needed to process my feelings. I needed to decide what I wanted. The thought of losing her was unbearable, but the thought of living with this betrayal felt even worse. Eventually, I drifted off to an uneasy sleep, filled with fragmented dreams that left me waking in a cold sweat. I could feel the ghost of Sarah's betrayal haunting me, lurking in the shadows of my mind. Morning came too soon, and I woke up feeling groggy and disoriented. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating the room in a warm glow, but I felt anything but warm inside. I could hear the faint sounds of Sarah moving around in the kitchen, and I knew I had to face her again. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that lay ahead. I stepped out of the guest room and made my way to the kitchen, where Sarah was pouring herself a cup of coffee. She looked up as I entered, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice tentative. "Morning," I replied, my tone neutral. I walked over to the coffee pot and poured myself a cup, the bitter aroma barely masking the tension in the air. We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of our unspoken words hanging heavily between us. I could see the worry etched on her face, and part of me felt sympathy for her, but the other part was still reeling from the betrayal. I was thinking. I began, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "Maybe we should talk about counseling. If you're serious about wanting to fix this, we need help." She nodded, her expression softening. "I am serious. I'll do whatever it takes to show you I can change. I don't want to lose you." "I don't want to lose you either, but trust has to be rebuilt," I said, my voice steady. "I need to know that you're committed to being honest with me moving forward." "I promise," she said, her eyes earnest. "I'll be completely transparent. No more secrets. I want to be the wife you deserve." Her promise hung in the air, a fragile thread we both knew could easily snap. I wanted to believe her, but the doubt still lingered in the back of my mind. "Let's start with the basics," I suggested, trying to keep my tone calm. "Tell me everything about what happened. I need to understand what led you to that point." She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "Okay, I'll tell you everything." As she recounted the details of her meeting with the other man, I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. She described how they had met at a bar, how they had talked about their lives, their dreams, and how she had felt a connection, one that she now realized was misguided. "I thought it was harmless at first," she said, her voice breaking. "But then it spiraled out of control. I felt like I was living a double life, and I didn't know how to get out of it." I listened intently, trying to process her words. The pain was still fresh, but hearing her admit her mistakes brought a flicker of hope. "Did you ever think about what this would do to us?" I asked, my voice steady. "I did," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "But I was so wrapped up in my own feelings that I didn't care about the consequences. I thought I could handle it on my own." "It's not just about you," I said, my voice firm. "You made a choice that affected both of us. I need to know you understand that." "I do," she replied, her eyes pleading. "I see that now. I didn't think about how my actions would hurt you. I was selfish." "Selfishness doesn't just hurt you, it tears apart relationships," I said, feeling the anger rise within me again. "I need to know you're willing to put in the effort to change. This isn't just about saying sorry, it's about taking responsibility for your actions." "I will," she promised, her voice filled with desperation. "I'll go to counseling, I'll be open about my feelings. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I can be better." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope, but it was fragile. The road ahead would be long and difficult, and I knew that rebuilding trust would take time. "I'm willing to try," I said finally, my voice steady. "But it's going to take time. I can't just forget what happened." "I understand," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for giving me a chance." As we stood there, the weight of our conversation hung in the air. The process of healing wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to try. We both knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but for the first time since the betrayal, I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, with time and effort, we could find a way back to each other. In the days that followed, life took on a new rhythm. The house felt different, charged with a tense energy. Sarah and I began to navigate the murky waters of rebuilding our relationship, a journey that was as daunting as it was necessary. We both knew that trust, once shattered, was not easily mended, but we were committed to trying. We started attending counseling together, sitting across from a professional who guided us through the raw emotions and difficult conversations we needed to have. I found it helpful to express my feelings in a safe space, but the memories of betrayal still lingered like shadows in the corners of my mind. Sarah was open and vulnerable in our sessions, sharing her struggles and the reasons that led her to seek solace outside our marriage. I could see the remorse in her eyes, and it stirred a mix of emotions within me: anger, sadness, but also a flicker of hope. With each session, she seemed more willing to confront her mistakes and take responsibility for her actions. It was a step in the right direction, but still, the road was long. One evening after a particularly intense session, we returned home and I felt a heaviness in the air. We sat together on the couch, and for the first time in a while I felt a sense of calm wash over me. "I think we're making progress," I said, cautiously optimistic. "I feel it too," Sarah replied, her eyes searching mine. "But I know it's going to take time. I'm willing to do the work." "I appreciate that," I said, my heart aching at the thought of how close we had come to losing everything. "But I need you to understand, this isn't just about fixing what was broken. It's about building something new, something stronger." "I understand," she said, her voice steady. "I want to be better for you, for us. I never want to feel that lost again." As we sat there, I felt a flicker of the love we once shared. It was fragile, but it was there. I realized that while the betrayal had changed us, it didn't have to define us. We had the power to reshape our relationship, to learn from the pain and emerge stronger. Over the next few weeks, we worked hard to communicate openly about our feelings. I found myself slowly starting to trust her again, but it was a delicate process. I had to remind myself that healing was not linear. There were days when I felt hopeful and others when I was consumed by doubt. One night, as we prepared dinner together, Sarah turned to me and said, "I really appreciate how patient you've been. I know I don't deserve it, but it means the world to me." I nodded, feeling a warmth in my chest. "I'm trying to be fair. I want to believe in us again, but it's going to take time." "I get it," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to earn back your trust." As the weeks turned into months, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. The laughter returned, and we found joy in the small moments we shared. We started going on dates again, rediscovering each other in ways we hadn't in years. It felt like we were peeling back the layers of our relationship, exposing the raw truths that lay beneath. But even as we moved forward, the shadow of her betrayal lingered. There were moments when I would catch myself doubting her, questioning her every move. I would have to remind myself that she was working hard to change and I had to trust the process. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to her and said, "You know, I still think about what happened. It's hard to forget, but I'm learning to let go." "I think about it too," she admitted, her voice soft. "But I also think about how far we've come. I don't want to go back to who I was. I want to move forward with you." Her words struck a chord within me, and I felt a sense of hope blossom. Perhaps this experience, as painful as it had been, was a catalyst for growth. We were learning to communicate better, to express our needs and feelings more openly. We were building a stronger foundation, brick by brick. As we continued our journey together, I learned that love is not just about the good times. It's about weathering the storms together and emerging stronger on the other side. Trust may take time to rebuild, but with commitment and effort it could flourish again. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but for the first time in a long while I felt hopeful about our future. I held Sarah's hand, feeling the warmth of her touch, and knew that we were both willing to fight for what we had. "Let's keep working at this," I said, squeezing her hand gently. "I believe we can do it." "Together," she replied, a smile breaking through the remnants of her past mistakes. And in that moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt the weight of betrayal begin to lift, replaced by the possibility of a renewed love, a love that had been tested but was still alive. Together, we would face whatever came next.